Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Sam Livingston, who is the founder of Sam's on Fire Coaching. Sam, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Hey, so what are you on fire about? So I love hearing these companies, and it's like, okay, Acme company, but no, this is Sam, and he's on fire. What are you on fire about, and what do you coach people to do?
Well, basically, I coach small business entrepreneurs to get into, light the fire in their own business. And what we see a majority of in new business owners, I primarily started coaching real estate agents. And what I found out was most people that are running a small business are very, very good at a specific task or set of tasks. They have a skill set for it. But what they don't do is they don't do a lot of the back end stuff, some of the follow through, a lot about the financial portion of their business. And they let those go by the wayside until they're almost to the point that they're over their head. And I see a lot of small businesses fail. So, and then the Sam's on Fire is a little bit of a play on, I was a Cleveland fireman for 17 years.
Oh, cool.
I also spent 20 years in the military, 6 of it on active duty and 14 as a reservist. So as a fireman, I do get fired up. I get, I'm one of those guys. I like to cheer. I like to, I wear my emotions outwardly. And so my coaching can be a little bit like that. I'm not one to be questioned about where my thoughts are. People usually know. I like to express what I am. Right. So that was a little bit of the Sam's on Fire portion. So with that mix, it just kind of came natural.
Yeah. By the way, have you ever heard of Fireman Mike Lemoyne?
I have.
Yeah, when you mentioned fireman, I remember him way back in the day talking about marketing. And so, yeah, I mean, you tend to kind of take that avatar, who am I? What am I? What's something that people can latch onto rather than just Bill Smith? So I think that's really neat. And you can read a lot into that, the energy of being that first responder, that rescuer, the military background. So what I hear when I hear you say that is structure and execution and leadership. And I love with it that you mentioned about operations at back end, because it's like seems like every episode we watch on Shark Tank, it's like, know your numbers. And if you don't, it's like going, yay, I got my sales increased, but you're pouring water in a bucket that has holes in it. Let's plug up the holes first. And then as the sales increase, now they're doing what they need to do.
Absolutely. And when you say know your numbers, it's the number one failure that I see. I ask for people immediately. I say, hey, what's your P&L look like? And I've had some people say, what's a P&L?
P and what?
And I, yeah, exactly. And I go, hey, listen, here's where, you have a great idea. You're really good at delivering your service. You're great at customer service or whatever it is that your niche is. You're great at. The problem is you don't know your numbers, so you're throwing money. Realtors especially will bleed money that they don't even understand. And I said, until you get your P&L done, until you understand where you are from a financial number standpoint, nothing else matters.
Yeah, like Metallica says.
Right.
So here's a question. You work with realtors, entrepreneurs. I'm sure it's not a specific only, I'm sorry, I can't help you, but that's the mindset, because guess what? A realtor is an entrepreneur, and that's the same thing applies. So what do you find led you to this point in your life? Because so many times I talk to maybe a chiropractor and, when I was a kid, I had this accident and this chiropractor changed my life, so I wanted to do that. What was it at what point in your career that you come out of the military, come out of the firefighting realm and go, you know what, I'm going to coach people?
Well, it is funny because I don't necessarily know anyone in this industry that woke up at 18 years old and said, I'm going to be a coach of some type. I just don't know that. And so I'm very similar in that regard. But what I learned going in the Marine Corps at 17 years old, there's a lot of leadership traits that are instilled in you. And sometimes you don't even know it's happening. But what does happen is you find yourself in situations where you're picking other people up, or you're, as you make a little bit of rank, you are in some sense mentoring other people. And the same thing happened to me on the fire department. I made it to the rank of lieutenant. I was the chief training instructor at the Cleveland Fire Academy before I resigned from the division. And what I found was I was naturally mentoring people. And then in real estate, I've been licensed in real estate since 2006. What happened was I was on the #1 team in Ohio, and I became the senior mentor. And it wasn't a role that I tried out for. It wasn't a role that they even expressed having. It just it became natural. People would ask questions, and then as I would answer the questions and I would learn more, I'm very hungry for knowledge, and I really like to know what I'm talking about. And then because I'm such an outgoing person, I like to share that. And I think that it just came natural. Yeah. And then I have a business coach, and one day he says to me, he goes, "Why aren't you coaching? Why aren't you actually coaching?" And it was a light bulb that went on.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then, of course, we can talk about the fulfillment you get when you see other people succeed, and you're not doing coaching because you want to pad your pockets. You want to see people succeed, and that's the mark of a true coach. What do you find when people come to you, even just to kind of kick the tires and say, I don't know that I need you, but Sam, what do you do, and what could I help you with? What is the typical problem that people are seeing in their business that they come and ask you, I wonder if you could help me with this?
Well, a lot of times it's funny. A lot of times people come and they don't know the question that they want to ask. They have some deficiency or some gap, and they're like, I need to close this gap, and I don't even really know what the gap is. And that's why we start with the numbers, because if I can see your numbers, what I always say is, if I can see your activity, we can probably project your outcome or your where you're going to be. And so what we like to do is dive into that. And what I find is a lot of people that even think that they know what their problems are wrong. They think they need, especially in real estate, they need the next gadget. They need the next lead generator. They need the beautiful CRM or whatever. And I said, no, you need to understand that those are procrastination tools. It's like making a video. You can make a video on an iPhone, but I've heard people say, well, I'm going to go buy this camera on my next commission. I'm like, you're going to wait to make a video for the right camera. No, that's just procrastination. Right. It's just a tool that you're using. So what we do is we start to look at all the things that they're not doing consistently. And I have them list the 5 major things that they're not doing in their business that if they would do, they know it would be a success. And then we start to implement small changes. The other thing I think people fail on, it's like a diet or working out. I'm going to go run a 26-mile marathon tomorrow, but I've never run before. Well, you're going to fail. Right. So it's the incremental changes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Once you run around the block first, and then tomorrow run around the block 1.5 times, and then the next week maybe you're running around the block without even stopping. I mean, you couldn't have said any better, and I just love that analogy so much. In fact, it makes me think of 2 things about people coming to you, and they think they have this problem, but really it's that problem. It's kind of like they don't know what they don't know, and they're too close to the problem, and you're from the external outside, and you're able to see from your experience, you know what, you mentioned this that you have, but have you ever considered? And they're like, oh yeah. And it's like people don't go to the hardware store to buy a drill. They go to a hardware store because what? They need a hole in this piece of wood or in this whatever. They don't want the thing that makes the hole. They just need the hole. But in reality, they discover that, to get that hole, you need to have this drill with this bit. Oh, good. I'm glad you told me that. So speak a little bit about that mindset, because I know that's a big focus of yours, because it's the mindset of not knowing what you don't know. It's the mindset of being open to hearing something new and taking action on it because, I know a thing or two, Sam. You don't need to tell me that. But how about the people that need to be coachable and open?
Well, that is a very, very important thing. A lot of people think that, I'm going to pay this amount of money and this guy's going to fix me, or this woman's going to fix me. And it's not about that. It's about being open, like you say, to identifying the issues that you might not even know you have. And it's very important when someone comes to me to find out how coachable they are. It's funny because people always are looking for the magic pill. Yep. And I don't think there's any magic pills. So what we have to do is decide, am I a good fit? I get a little bit loud. I like to laugh. I like to, I have a very specific personality, and it is a little bit polarizing. So I have to decide, and you have to decide, do I like Sam and can he help me? Do I like his approach and can he help me? Or am I not a fan? So I really like to say, I might not be your guy. I might not be the right person for you. My background, being in the Marine Corps at 17 years old and being a Cleveland fireman and paramedic, I've seen a few things, and I tend to let my emotion be seen. And I'm not an overly emotional person, but I'm not afraid to allow you into what my thoughts are. And every once in a while, I might drop some language that's not favorable to some people. And if that is not favorable to you, then I'm probably not your coach. So, trying to answer your question, finding people that are coachable, they can be coachable in some realms, but not all realms. So they have to kind of pick their poison and pick who they're going to work with. And the other thing is accountability. People tell me, well, I'm hiring you so you'll hold me accountable. And I said, good, you're going to fly me to where I have a coaching client in Missouri, and that was the first thing she said. She goes, well, I need you to hold me accountable. I said, good. So once a week, you're going to fly me to Missouri, and either we're going to celebrate or we're going to have a punishment session where, you have to do something physical labor wise. And she's like, no. I said, exactly. I can't hold you accountable. You can hold you accountable. Yeah. I'm going to show you a way. Yeah. And I think that's with coaching the industry. People have a big misconception about what it really looks like.
I think you just wrapped it up so nicely there. That's so awesome. And even if that person did fly you and be accountable, and you can say, we talked about this last week, did you do it? And they could say no. Well, even if you're right there, that's holding them accountable. But then what? What happens if that doesn't work? And I've heard of these apps before where it's like, if you want to gain weight, lose weight, whatever goal, you're going to put this app in there, then you're going to tag a friend of yours, and you're going to literally pay whatever it is, $100. And if you don't meet this, it automatically goes where? Not to the friend, but it's going to go to a charity that you despise. So what's the charity that you hate the worst? And this money's going to go there, and it's going to drive you. Number one, your friend's going to hold you accountable. But number two, you really know that you don't want the money to go to wherever that is. And now that is that self-accountability. So if you can coach people to be self-accountable, boy, that's like give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, and wow, he's fishing for his lifetime.
Absolutely. And that's another big thing I like you say. The accountability portion to yourself is so much more important. What is your real goal? And I find that there's ego-driven people, and there's money-driven people, and there's pain-driven people, and pleasure-driven people. And I don't care. I honestly don't care what drives you, as long as you know and we can identify what is the end result. I had someone that she was really concerned. She sells a specific product, and within her company, there's award levels, and there's a way that you can get specific credit for sales. And it doesn't affect the commission, or the commission doesn't affect the credit. And so she had made a couple sales, and she couldn't get the credit for it. And she was a little bit upset. And I said, well, wait a minute. What's the most important to you right now? And what does that look like as far as does this credit earn you more commission? She said, no. I said, well, does the award give you some opportunity to travel? Does it give you something? She goes, no, you get your name in the book, and you get a plaque for the wall. And I said, great. You can't eat it. You can't sell it. Yep. You can't take it to the bank.
Go make your own plaque.
Is it that important? Right, exactly. And so when we got past that, what she realized was it really didn't matter to her. It was something that someone else had told her should matter.
Yeah. Ooh, that's.
Now, I've also coached the guy that definitely wanted to be, especially in real estate. I want the ranking. I care about being number one, or I care about being in the top 5%. Good. If that's who you are, identify that and let that be your motivation, and you'll be accountable to that. But if you care more about what net life you have and what you're providing for your family or your future finances or whatever it is, then let that be your guiding light.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy?
I have.
Love that book. Love the concept. Love his teachings. And it made me think of something you said a little bit ago about, running the marathon and you hadn't run before ever. So, set yourself up for success, not failure with these goals. Well, the compound effect, in essence, is when you do something and then you do another small incremental something, they start compounding upon each other. So you don't need to feel like you need to do that whole year's goal in one weekend. Make that incremental change. And I feel like you would be coaching your clients to say, let's talk about that, begin with the end in mind, and let's break it down into some of these incremental goals. And then let's rejoice and celebrate when you make this one incremental step because you're getting closer. But what does that do to the momentum and the mindset of your clients that you work with that way?
Well, I'm a firm believer in that and always reviewing. And one thing that I think we make a mistake on is we make goals that are too far out. Not in process, or not like, hey, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, when do you want to be a millionaire? Or I want to achieve something specifically. Good. The annual goals are one of those issues where they're like, I want to make X dollars, or I would like to have this many sales in this year. Great. Let's break that down. What does that look like weekly, quarterly? And what we do is we lose sight of, we just think magically we're going to get to the end and we're there. However, we're not reviewing and making the appropriate changes and the incremental changes that will get us there. So I think the compound effect is really important. And I think it also spreads to other things. I'm a big mindset person. So I'm always reviewing and not just tracking my numbers, but analyzing my numbers. Am I doing the things on a daily basis that I know are going to make me better and help me achieve my goals? And what I see is I have personal goals, and I have financial goals, and I have business goals, and I have all these different things. And what happens is I find that I don't ever get to focus on just one thing. I shouldn't say it like that, but when I do focus on anything to get better, it bleeds into all other aspects of my life. And it may, and that compound effect that you talk about, you do it once, and you get this small celebrated win, and then you've done it 5 times, and it becomes a habit. Yeah. And now you start to, it's a reward all the time when you're working.
I like how you mentioned about the bleeding over, because it makes me think of the old saying about when the tide rises, all the ships rise. So when you focus on and get some of that momentum going on this one area that you make incremental change in, that excites you. But then also you're like, well, shoot, if I tightened up my diet this week and felt good and that was awesome, maybe I ought to start working out a little bit more. And next week I'm going to do that. And then the next week, hey, I'm doing both of those pretty simple. And maybe I ought to stay an extra 20 minutes at work and make those extra calls or do those extra whatever. And it starts to be that all ships rise with the tide. So I think that's a huge piece. Hey, Sam, so let's wrap up with this. What is the best way that someone listening to this can go, maybe I don't know what I don't know. Maybe there are some roadblocks. Maybe there's some incremental changes I need to make in my business. What's the best way that someone can reach out, engage with you, and learn a little bit more about your coaching?
Well, the easiest way is if you go to samsonfire.com, and that'll link you, because here's what I know. Everybody has their way of contacting. Yeah. But if you go to samsonfire.com and you want to text me, there's a place for you to do that. If you want to email me, there's a place for you to do that. If you want to private message me on there, if you want to find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, you want to go to my podcast, I put it all in one place, and I made it easy at samsonfire.com.
Perfect. Well, Sam, thanks a million for coming on. It was really great chatting with you today.
Well, thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.